The sun dipped below the horizon, casting an orange glow over the bustling market street. Vendors called out their last deals. Children laughed as they ran barefoot through the dusty roads, and the rich and poor alike made their way home. Among them was 10-year-old Kabir, a thin boy with sun-kissed skin and big, hopeful eyes. Clutching a small bundle of food wrapped in newspaper, he weaved through the crowd toward his tiny home, a single-room hut where his mother waited with tired eyes and a warm embrace. But before he could reach home, he saw him. An old beggar, frail and trembling, sat hunched on the side of the road. His clothes were nothing more than torn rags, and his eyes held a vacant sorrow that could not be ignored. His hands, wrinkled and bony, shivered as he extended them toward passers-by, silently pleading for a morsel. But people walked past him as if he were invisible. Some averted their eyes. Others whispered to each other about how beggars were nothing but burdens to society. Kabir hesitated. His stomach growled. He hadn't eaten all day. His mother had saved this meal for him, and he knew how hard she worked to put together even a few pieces of bread. He took a deep breath, looking at the man, then at his food. The beggar's lips were cracked from thirst, his fingers twitching from weakness. Kabir's heart ached. Before he could talk himself out of it, he stepped forward. Baba, ap bouquet hain, yaline. Grandfather, are you hungry? Take this. The old man's watery eyes lifted in shock. Nahi beta, yatumhara kanahai. Tum cow, he rasped, shaking his head. Kabir smiled, pushing the food into the old man's hands. Muyi for miljayega. Aap cow. I will find food again. You eat. Tears welled up in the beggar's eyes. He cupped Kabir's face with trembling hands. Allah tumara bala care, beta. May God bless you, child, he whispered, his voice thick with gratitude. Kabir grinned and ran off before the beggar could return the meal. Little did he know, this moment would change his life forever. Kabir had always known hardship. Born into poverty, his life was a series of struggles that his mother, Shabana, bore with quiet dignity. His father had passed away when Kabir was just a baby, leaving Shabana to raise him alone. She worked tirelessly as a housemaid, scrubbing floors and washing dishes in wealthy households to earn enough for a single meal a day. Yet, despite their struggles, she always taught Kabir to be kind, to share whatever little they had, and to never let poverty harden his heart. Kabir, beta, she would say, brushing his hair with calloused fingers. Insan ki asal dulit uska dilhoda hai. Paisa ada jadareta hai. Lekanachai hamesha rahti hai. A person's real wealth is their heart. Money comes and goes, but kindness stays forever. Kabir took those words to heart. Even though hunger gnawed at his stomach most nights, he never hesitated to help someone in need. Their home was a tiny shanty on the outskirts of the market. It had no electricity, just a small kerosene lamp that flickered as the wind seeped through the cracks in the walls. The roof leaked when it rained, and during winter, the cold bit through their thin blankets. But still, their home was filled with love. Every evening, Kabir would rush to the marketplace after school to help vendors carry goods, earning a few rupees that he proudly handed to his mother. But on that particular evening, the sight of the frail old beggar had stopped him in his tracks. The beggar, known in the area as Baba, had been living on the streets for years. Nobody knew where he had come from. Some people whispered that he had once been a wealthy man who had lost everything, while others claimed he was just another unfortunate soul abandoned by fate. Whatever the truth was, he was now just another invisible figure in the crowd, ignored and forgotten by the world. Kabir had seen him before, always sitting in the same spot, too weak to call out, his eyes filled with an unspoken pain. That night, as Kabir lay on the thin mattress beside his mother, his stomach empty but his heart full, he thought of Baba's grateful face. Ami, he whispered, KL agar wo Baba for a mile. Takia main uncle ye kuch luja saktahun? Mother, if I see Baba again tomorrow, can I take him some food? His mother smiled in the dim light, running a gentle hand over his forehead. Beta, insan wohi hoda hai jo dusran kuduk mesus care. Agar tum jishi bouquet ko kila sakt ho. To us se betar, or kuch nai. A true human is one who feels the pain of others. If you can feed someone hungry, there is no greater deed. The next day, Kabir tucked an extra piece of bread into his pocket and ran off to find Baba. For the next several weeks, Kabir made it a habit to bring Baba food whenever he could. Sometimes it was just a piece of bread, other times a small handful of rice wrapped in an old cloth. No matter how little it was, Baba always accepted it with teary eyes and a trembling smile. Tum bohat ek ho, beta, Baba would say, his voice cracking with emotion. You are very kind, my child. But Kabir didn't think of himself as special. He simply couldn't bear to see someone go hungry while he had something to share. One evening, as Kabir handed Baba a warm roti his mother had packed, he finally asked the question that had been on his mind. Baba, aap peli kia kardida? Kia apki koi garwale nahi hain. Baba, what did you do before? Don't you have any family? Baba's gaze drifted toward the distance. A deep sadness settled in his eyes, and for a moment, it seemed like he wouldn't answer. But then, he let out a long sigh. Beta, kabi kabis and dagi hum sab kuch cheen leti hai, he said softly. Sometimes, life takes everything from us. Kabir waited, hoping for more, but Baba simply patted his head and changed the subject. Despite Baba's reluctance to talk about his past, Kabir's attachment to him grew stronger. Some nights, when the streets became too cold, Kabir would sneak out of his house and bring Baba an extra blanket. Other times, he would sit beside him and listen to his quiet prayers, the words filled with pain and longing. But not everyone was as kind as Kabir. One afternoon, Kabir witnessed a group of men mocking Baba as he sat on the roadside. They kicked at his meager belongings, laughing cruelly. Kam karna nahi aata, surf beek mengna aata hai. One of them sneered. Don't you know how to work? All you can do is beg. Baba stayed silent, his eyes cast downward. Fury burned in Kabir's chest. Without thinking, he rushed forward and spread his arms protectively in front of Baba. Mat karo isa. Wobi insan hain. Kabir shouted. Don't do this. He is a human too. The men laughed at the sight of the scrawny boy standing up for an old beggar, but something in Kabir's unwavering eyes made them step back. With a final scoff, they walked away. Kabir turned to Baba, expecting him to be angry or embarrassed. Instead, Baba was smiling, a warm, proud smile that made Kabir's heart swell. That night, as Kabir lay in bed, he thought about how cruel the world could be to those who had nothing. But he also knew that even in a world filled with selfishness, kindness still had the power to shine through. Years passed, and life carried Kabir forward like a river's current. He grew from a skinny, barefoot boy into a determined young man. Through sheer resilience and his mother's sacrifices, he managed to secure a scholarship for higher studies. With every passing year, he worked harder, determined to pull himself and his mother out of poverty. But time was not as kind to Baba. Each time Kabir returned to his neighborhood during holidays, he noticed Baba growing weaker. His hands trembled more, his voice grew fainter, and his once bright eyes seemed lost in a world of silent suffering. The last time Kabir saw him, Baba had simply smiled, patted his cheek, and said, Beta, tumhari minute dek kar mui fakar hoda hai. My child, I am proud of your hard work. And then, one winter, when Kabir came back from university, Baba was gone. No one knew where he had gone or what had happened to him. Some said he had passed away quietly in the night. Others claimed he had simply vanished. Kabir was devastated. He searched the streets, asked the shopkeepers, even visited the shelters, but Baba was nowhere to be found. Woda bohat peli chalai gay, beta, an old fruit vendor told him. He left a long time ago, son. It felt as if a part of Kabir's childhood had disappeared. But life didn't allow him to dwell on his grief for long. He had responsibilities, his mother to take care of, and a future to build. Years passed. Kabir finished his education, secured a well-paying job, and moved his mother into a better home. He climbed the ladder of success, turning his childhood struggles into fuel for his ambition. From the hungry boy who once gave away his meal, he had become a man who could afford the luxuries he once only dreamed of. But despite his achievements, an emptiness lingered in his heart. He often thought of Baba. Where had he gone? Was he still alive? Had he died alone? Then, one day, fate answered his questions in a way he never expected. Kabir had been invited to a prestigious business event, a networking gala attended by some of the most influential people in the city. As he walked through the lavishly decorated hall, exchanging pleasantries with corporate elites, a name caught his attention. A large banner displayed the words, "The Foundation of Hope, founded by Murtaza Sheikh. Kabir froze. Murtaza Sheikh. It was a name he had never heard before, yet something about it unsettled him. His instincts told him to dig deeper. Later that night, unable to shake off the feeling, Kabir searched for the name. His fingers trembled as he scrolled through old articles and records, and then he found it. An old photograph buried deep within a news archive. The face staring back at him was older, cleaner, and dressed in an elegant suit, but there was no mistaking it. It was Baba. Kabir's breath caught in his throat. His mind raced with questions. How could this be? The beggar he had shared his food with, the man who had nothing, was actually a wealthy philanthropist? Kabir couldn't sleep that night. His mind was consumed with thoughts of Baba. No, Murtaza Sheikh. He kept staring at the picture, trying to reconcile the image of the frail beggar from his childhood with the distinguished man in the article. Questions tormented him. Had Baba been hiding his identity all along? If so, why had he lived as a beggar? And why had he never told Kabir the truth? Determined to find out, Kabir searched for more information. He found out that Murtaza Sheikh was not just a businessman, but the founder of one of the city's biggest charitable organizations. The Foundation of Hope provided shelter, education, and health care to the underprivileged. It had saved thousands of lives. And yet, the man behind it had once sat on a cold pavement, relying on a poor boy's kindness just to survive. Kabir needed answers. The next morning, he scheduled a visit to the Foundation's headquarters. His heart pounded as he stepped into the grand office. A receptionist greeted him politely. "Good morning, sir. How can I help you?" "I need to see Mr. Murtaza Sheikh," Kabir said, his voice unsteady. The receptionist hesitated. "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but—" Kabir's mind raced. How could he explain this? That he had once given food to the man they all respected? That he had sat beside him on cold nights, listening to his stories? Before he could think of a response, a deep voice spoke from behind him. "Who wants to see me?" Kabir turned slowly. There he was. Murtaza Sheikh stood before him, looking healthier than Kabir had ever seen him. His hair, once unkempt, was now neatly combed, and the ragged clothes had been replaced with a tailored suit. But his eyes, those eyes still held the same warmth Kabir remembered. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then, Kabir whispered, "Baba?" Murtaza's breath hitched. His expression shifted from confusion to shock, then to something even deeper, recognition and emotion. "Kabir." His voice was barely audible. Kabir nodded, his eyes burning with unshed tears. "Ap Kaun Hain. Apn Mui Kabi Bataya Kyan Nahi. Who are you? Why didn't you ever tell me?" Murtaza gestured toward his office. "And Rao Beta. Come inside, my son." As they sat across from each other, Murtaza let out a heavy sigh. "Tum sak rahi ho ki main apni asaliat kyan chapaya." You must be wondering why I hid my identity. Kabir swallowed hard. "Baba, Mui surf sach jana hai. Baba, I just want to know the truth." Murtaza nodded and leaned back in his chair, his eyes clouded with memories. "Mui peli surf ek emir insan sanja jadade. Mera apna, ek empire the. Parfur, dosti main dushmani chupiti. Mir apni logo ini mui dokadia. Mera sab kuch lut liya. Ek pal main surf ek nam bank re gaya, or ek akele insan ka nam yuse du wakt ki roti nahi de sakta." I was once a wealthy man with my own empire. But betrayal hid behind friendship. My own people deceived me, stole everything I had. In one moment, I became nothing more than a name, and a name alone cannot feed a man. Kabir listened in stunned silence. I wandered the streets, ashamed, broken. But then I met you. Murtaza smiled softly. "Tum ek chot lagkatha, jo kudbi mushkalat se guzer rahatha. Magar tum muyi jo dia, wodanaya ki koi dulit nahi de sakti, insaniat." You were just a little boy, struggling yourself. But what you gave me was something no wealth could buy, humanity. Kabir's throat tightened. Murtaza continued. "Muyi kuch wakt laga, parmain wapazan ka faislakia. Main apni zindagi fur se shuru ki, magar iss bar surf apni lianahi. Unsablagon kuliya jo jishi na jishi din mari taragur jade hain." It took me some time, but I decided to rise again. I rebuilt my life. But this time, not just for myself, for everyone who, at some point, falls like I did. Kabir wiped a tear from his cheek. "Lekin Baba, apn muyi peli kyun nahi bataya?" "But Baba, why didn't you tell me earlier?" Murtaza smiled gently. Hyunki mui padave, ekdin jab tum tayar hog, tum kud sach dund loge. Because I knew that one day, when you were ready, you would find the truth yourself. Kabir let out a shaky breath. He had spent years wondering about Baba's fate, and now, here he was, a man who had risen from the ashes, stronger than ever. And suddenly, Kabir understood. The food he had given Baba all those years ago had been small, but the kindness behind it had been life-changing. For both of them, Kabir sat in silence, absorbing everything Murtaza had just revealed. His heart felt heavy, yet lighter at the same time. The boy who had once shared his meal with a beggar had unknowingly been helping a man who would later change countless lives. Baba, Muifakar haiku aap mirzandagi ka hisarai. Baba, I am proud that you have been a part of my life. Murtaza chuckled softly. Beta, agar uss din tum apna kana mujsna banti. To shayad main kabi apni apko dobarakata nahi karpada. Son, if you hadn't shared your food with me that day, I might never have been able to stand up again. Kabir looked at the man sitting in front of him, not a beggar, not just a wealthy businessman, but a living testament to resilience. So what now? Kabir asked. Murtaza's smile was warm. Ab tumbateo. Tumari kahani biad hori nahi reni chai. Now you tell me. Your story shouldn't remain incomplete either. Kabir thought for a moment. He had spent his life struggling, working tirelessly, trying to make something of himself. He had fought against odds, faced humiliation, and battled the pain of being abandoned. But he had also been given something priceless, a lesson in kindness, in faith, in perseverance. Main tumzi ek wada chadahun, beta, Murtaza said, placing a reassuring hand on Kabir's shoulder. Jo dia that, you see badhana map bulna. I want a promise from you, son. Never forget to pass on what you have been given. Kabir nodded, feeling a new sense of purpose ignite within him. Nahi balunga, Baba. I won't forget, Baba. Days later, Kabir made a decision. He resigned from his job, not because he was giving up, but because he had found a new purpose. He wanted to work with the Foundation of Hope, to dedicate his time to helping those who were struggling, just as he once had. Murtaza was proud. You were always meant to do something greater, Kabir, he said. Or Jo insan apni zindagi surf apni liyanahi. Baki dusran kuliya bijita hai. Wo kabi hardanahi. And the person who lives not just for himself, but for others never truly loses. Months passed, and Kabir flourished at the foundation. He worked on outreach programs, connected with underprivileged children, and became an inspiration to many. Every time he helped someone, he felt as if he was giving back the kindness he had once received. One day, as he was distributing food at a shelter, a little boy hesitated before taking the plate. He looked up at Kabir with wide, hopeful eyes and whispered, Bia, Apko Shakriya, Kana Chadahun. Brother, I want to say thank you. Kabir was taken aback. Lekin Kyun. But why? The boy smiled. Kyunki aj pali bar muyi lagraha hai kamena kelan nahi hun. Because today, for the first time, I feel like I'm not alone. Kabir's heart swelled. He bent down and ruffled the boy's hair. Bas yahi toa saljit hai. That's the real victory. As he walked away, Kabir looked up at the sky, feeling the presence of something much greater than himself. Life had come full circle. A poor boy had once given his food to a beggar. And years later, he had discovered that the beggar had given him something far greater in return. Hope, purpose, and a reason to believe in the power of kindness.